My mother was a very, very smart woman, a little abrasive at times, but she was very, very efficient, smart, and I know she loved me, but to say I love you was not a common thing in those days. You didn't tell people you loved them at a whim. She would once in a while, she'd hug me and say she loved me, but most of the time she was very critical. I probably found out all the things about me that I didn't want to hear from her. My mother and dad took my grandmother in after her second husband died, and she lived with us. She was very sweet. I sort of always tended to go to Grandma after I got yelled at. My mother, as I say, well, all my children knew my mother. And what did you all call her? What did you call Grandma?
Well, Dad started it General Hootenanny.
Yeah.
We didn't make that up.
General Hootenanny, yeah. But when you think of what kind of life she led, I mean, she had every right to be grumpy and every right to try to make a better life, and which she did. She made a wonderful life for us. Because I had a baby brother, 7 years younger, who was the bane of my existence. He was cute and adorable and curly-haired. Might say I was probably jealous. Anyhow, my dad, he was 10 years older than my mother, the sweetest man ever existed. Happy, always happy. He, of course, never got depressed during the Depression as much as my mother, because he didn't handle the money. He just worked, and she took care of all the money, and he just didn't worry about it. He just knew everything was going to be okay. And he was right, it was. But he loved cars. He could repair anything. I always think, every time I see Janice and Jack working on something, I think that's who inherited it, because Janice and Jack can fix anything. And they inherited his ability to repair everything. And he was just a delightful man until he died very suddenly. Well, he had a heart condition, but he died very suddenly while I think 3 of the children and Jack and myself were in Chicago. Jack had just come back from Europe, and my father got out of bed one morning before the day we were going to leave, and fell back into bed with a heart attack and died instantly, which I thought, just like my father, very convenient. There were no cell phones. We would have gotten down the road. There was no way to contact us. So he very, very conveniently and very sweetly died before we left. And that's the kind of man he was. He never made waves, never bothered anybody. He always was very considerate of everybody. The sweetest man. But as I say, he did depend on my mother. My mother did everything.